So what's up, guys? This is gonna be my first video. This is misogyny's minion coming at you, coming right in your face. So today's video and my first video ever is gonna be on Sean Hannity, and yeah, let's get into it. So I just recorded this segment of the Sean Hannity show, and I'm reading it, or I'm listening. Excuse me, I'm listening to it just the same as you are. I'm going off the cuff with this, so give me a little bit of a leeway here. I may not make the greatest impact, but I'll do my best.
Countdown to saving America is on. T-minus 83 days till Election Day. Freedom is back in style. Welcome to the revolution.
Well, you heard it from Sean. The countdown to saving America is on. Apparently, Sean Hannity is going to save America with his talk radio show, and he's also putting freedom back in style. But another thing I want to talk about is listen to this intro music. Who do you think he's pandering to? Because he talks later about certain people of color, and I'm pretty sure they're not his target audience. Fuck. Idiot. So yeah, some real good country and music there. I mean, I know obviously he has a target audience he has to pander to, but the reason I want you to critically analyze this with me is because he claims to want to reach out to black people and Mexicans and Latin Americans and all that. He wants to reach out to the minority, but yet obviously he's pandering to a certain group, and he's just giving lip service to wanting to reach these people. And he'll even have black hosts on, and and if they're not on his side, I mean, he just attacks them. But that's just how the political talk radio and I guess even TV goes whenever you have debates. All right, so he opens up with a really long speech. Well, he gives a lot of airtime to Donald Trump's speech. And I'm only going to start with the part where he talks about the African Americans, because that's what this video is mainly going to be criticizing. And he also talks about, I believe, the school dropout rate or the pass rate. And so, yeah, we're going to listen to that real quick.
Of every African American citizen struggling in our country today who wants a different and much better future. It's time for our society to address some honest and very, very difficult truths. The Democratic Party has failed and betrayed the African American community. Democratic crime policies, education policies, and economic policies have produced only more crime, more broken homes, and more poverty. The poverty rate here is nearly double the national average. Almost 4 in 10 African American men in Milwaukee between the ages of 25 and 54 do not have a job. Nearly 4 in 10 single mother households are living in poverty. 55 public schools in the city have been rated as failing to meet expectations despite $10,000 in funding per pupil, which is a very, very high number. There's only a 60% graduation rate, and it's one of the worst public school systems anywhere in the country. 1 in 5 manufacturing jobs has disappeared in Milwaukee since we fully opened our markets, and you understand what that means. We opened these markets to China, and many African-American neighborhoods have suffered. We opened our markets, they've taken our jobs, they give us our products that we don't make anymore, and African-American neighborhoods, along with many other neighborhoods, have suffered greatly.
What the fuck is a neckbird? I've never heard that before. Is that like a roughneck, but for like the North? Can someone tell me what that is? Anyway, all right, so he starts off with the Democratic Party has failed black people. Now, I agree with this, but the Dems make excuses for black people, and I thought that was a Democratic, talking point. In these next couple of statements, he says excuses basically for black people, saying we ship jobs to China, causing African Americans to lose their jobs. He also throws in a little, they took our jobs there at the end, and seamlessly, I might add. I mean, it just flows. He's a great speaker. But he also gives them the excuse that poverty is causing crime in the black community. This is a standard talking point for the left, an excuse for the left given to black people. Now, I could have swore Donald was a Republican, but yeah. So it's not black people's fault. It's not their culture. It's that the evil corporations are shipping jobs to China, and that we open our borders. We open the market to China and other countries. Now, the stats that he's throwing out are just for Milwaukee, I believe. He also talks about the education, which, yeah, I believe education actually is it's not an excuse. It's actually legitimate, and so that's actually a good thing there. But remember when Bernie Sanders said that white people don't know what it's like to be poor? This is the same mentality, just on the opposite side of the spectrum. Black people don't know what it's like to be middle class or rich because we open the market or the border to other countries. Well, if that's the case, why isn't it affecting white people? Or it is affecting white people, and we can't talk about that right now because Black Lives Matter. All right, so let's get into Sean Hannity now. I had to just throw that in there, that speech, because he gave a lot of airtime to that. But here we go with Sean Hannity.
All right, Donald Trump last night in what was a huge speech addressing the problems that have been going on in Milwaukee, to the black community in America, to inner city America, naming names and offering an alternative way to solve problems.
What alternatives did he offer? He didn't offer any alternatives. And what names did he name? He named China. I guess that's a name. It's the name of a country. He didn't name anyone specifically. He just gave excuses to black people, saying it's not your fault. It's poverty. It's that you live in poverty. It's that we ship jobs to China. He just gave excuses. He didn't give alternatives.
Let me backtrack here. Some people ask me all the time, well, what advice would you give Trump?
Yes, let's listen to the advice the all-powerful Sean Hannity has for Trump, because apparently everyone wants him to give Trump some advice.
Here's what I have seen in the last 2 days, and you'll see more of this on display tonight. Hannity, Fox News Channel, Pabst Theater in Milwaukee, town hall with Donald Trump on protecting the homeland, defeating ISIS, and defeating radical Islam. That is the main focus of the town hall that we're doing. But if you really want, if for those of you that are worried and concerned and nervous, and you see the polls, and you don't like the way the poll numbers have been going, and the Real Clear Politics average, I think Hillary's up by 5 or 6. They have some polls that are closer. Zogby added a 2-point race yesterday. LA Times a 1-point race today. But you're worried, concerned. You're looking at some of the swing states. You know, I actually tweeted, who was it? Nate Silver, 538. I actually read his stuff. He's not had a particularly strong year in terms of his predictions. He's loved by the left. He has a very interesting model paradigm that he's created for predicting electoral results. But by the way, it shifts every day. And it's a combination of many factors, not just accumulating different poll numbers, but other factors that he works into his campaign. But anyway, he's renowned and beloved in liberal circles because of his predictions about Obama in the past, et cetera. He's not had a particularly great year, in my opinion, as it relates to these Republican primaries. But I read everything I can get my hands on. And he suggested today that I don't put a lot of stock in poll numbers, and that I'm misleading people by suggesting that maybe online mentions or Twitter mentions or apps, et cetera. There was a guy that came out with an app that said he thinks Donald Trump's going to win. I'm not saying that at all.
Sean, get to your point. What you threw a plug in there for your Fox News little broadcast, and now you're saying don't listen to this app that this guy put out that says Donald Trump is gonna win because of the mentions. What? I thought you wanted Donald Trump to win. Why would we not listen to that? Is it to scare us into being like, oh no, even though this says he's gonna win, we still gotta band together and get those votes in?
I read everything I can get my hands on. And he suggested today that I don't put a lot of stock in poll numbers, and that I'm misleading people by suggesting that maybe online mentions or Twitter mentions or apps, et cetera. There was a guy that came out with an app that said he thinks Donald Trump's going to win. I'm not saying that at all. My advice to any campaign is listen to the polls, believe them, trust them, always fight as if you are behind, take nothing for granted, and I would argue that Trump is down, probably about 4 points nationally. And I think he's got some ground to make up in states like Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, North Carolina. Well, there's still a lot of game to play here with 83 days left in the campaign.
Oh, okay, so you are trying to scare Trump supporters into making sure they get enough people to vote and that your candidate is always down. What about Hillary, though? Should their supporters always think that they're down? Just so you know that Sean's a academic, he throws in there, I read all the time. Well, thanks, man. I'm glad you read.
So my advice, what would I say to Donald Trump? It's what I say publicly, what I would say privately to anybody, is the last 2 days with Donald Trump and what he has done by staying on message, focusing only on the failures of Obama and Clinton. He did this, Tuesday? He did it Monday on the issue of radical Islam and on ISIS and Hillary Clinton's failures and Obama's failures, and how Syria and Iraq and Iran and Libya and Egypt and Russia and the disaster that is known as radical Islam. And he pointed to the terrorism in Germany and in France and in Belgium and in Great Britain and in Europe. And then he talked about Orlando and Chattanooga and San Bernardino. And he talked about how every 84 hours there's another ISIS terror attack. And what brought us to this point, he gave a pretty comprehensive history in terms of, okay, she voted for the war, she politicized the war, she telegraphed we were leaving, it created a vacuum for ISIS, and it also provided them the financial resources to expand their terror network. And it's a pretty powerful speech. Now, a speech like that has to be on a teleprompter. There's no way, and I'm somebody that gives speeches or have in the course of my life and career on a regular basis. That's a speech you need on a teleprompter, especially in a presidential race. And last night, from what I understand, and my sources within the Trump campaign told me, he decided to do this speech last night in light of what has happened in Milwaukee. And he did the same thing at the beginning of that speech. And he laid out the problems that exist in the black community. And he took it head on. You know, why does Obama and Hillary, why do they politicize incidents like Trayvon Martin or the Cambridge police or Ferguson or Freddie Gray in Baltimore, and yet ignore 3,500 people killed in Obama's hometown of Chicago? Why? Because it doesn't fit the racial narrative that he wants to advance politically? I think there's a strong case to be made about that. Black lives matter. Do they matter in your hometown of Chicago? If it doesn't fit a political narrative that police are somehow targeting black Americans to kill them and hunt them down, well, then somehow we're not going to talk about it. And as far as I know, I'm the only person in the media on television that has actually scrolled the names of the people who have died in Chicago during the course of Obama's presidency.
Okay, so Trump reads off a teleprompter. Was they took our jobs, was that on the teleprompter or was that off the cuff? Anyway, Sean loves the smell of his own farts. As far as I know, I'm the only one in the media showing names of the people who died in Chicago over the course of Obama's presidency. Now, I get talking about radical Islam is important. We definitely need to talk about that. But showing the names of people killed in Obama's hometown while he was the president, I mean, who does that help? Black Lives Matter doesn't care about those people. And remember, Sean, you're trying to reach the black community here, and Black Lives Matter. That's not going to help. It's only going to racially divide your established audience.
Because in both these speeches, he does the same thing. He identifies we are on the wrong track. He identifies the problems. In the case of Milwaukee, failed public schools, drugs that are not eradicated.
Well, just get some Eradicate candy. That'll eradicate the drugs there. God, that's a terrible joke.
Talked about, and on numerous occasions, if you want to know who has been disproportionately impacted by what we now know officially is the worst recession since the 1940s, the lowest participation rate in the labor force since the 70s, the lowest home ownership rate in 51 years, a 58% increase in black Americans now on food stamps, a 20% increase in black Americans not participating in the labor force. We have 12 million more on food stamps, 12 million more Americans, 8 million more Americans in poverty, and a doubling of the national debt, and we don't have those shovel-ready jobs, and our educational system, we pay more per capita than any industrialized country with 35th in results. You know, these are Democratic policies. If you look at Milwaukee, Sherrod Clark told me last night that there hasn't been a Republican mayor in that city since 1908. If you look at Baltimore.
Yes, it's Obama's fault. It's the Democrats' fault. It's the black people's fault. No, actually, it's not the black people's fault. It's, they're on food stamps, and I guess you're telling them to get off food stamps. I'm pretty sure they like that. So you're going the wrong way here, Sean.
Look at Baltimore. You want to see the impact, the effects of liberalism on a community, the devastation created by a belief that the government is going to help protect you and take care of every aspect of your life. Look at Baltimore. Look at Ferguson, Missouri. Look at any inner city in America. He goes over the stats last night about what happened in Chicago since Obama's been president. 3,500 dead. Nobody knows their names. How Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, the problems in inner city today, a vote for her would be a vote for another generation of poverty.
Finally, a good point, Sean. But see, the problem is that these new millennials and the black people, they all are falling for this socialism. They want socialism. They don't understand that it's causing poverty. They want to suck the teat of the government. That's what they want. They don't want to work. They don't want to do their job. And if they do, they want to make a lot of money. They want to make as much money as a doctor doing some bullshit ass lawn mowing job or something like that. Because of socialism. They want socialism. So how do we fix that, Sean? How do we get them to understand that socialism doesn't work? This video is getting really long. I got to stop it here. I'm going to make a part 2. So that'll be coming shortly up after this one.